the handstand push-up. The way that we're going to teach this, Arnie's favorite, the way that we're going to teach this is Cody's going to show us some positions. We're going to talk about them, and you're going to go get into the positions that Cody got into. It's really important before we start to talk about the actual movement that we talk about the handstand. In the open, how tall you can be, how much of a distance, how far of a distance you can create from down here to up here makes it either easier or harder for you based on the standard that they have. So when Cody kicks up, I'm going to actually have him kick up a little bit further away from the wall. See where his heels are? Go ahead and come down. His heels right about here. Go ahead and kick up closer to the wall now. And he's about an inch higher, okay? So we already have a difference, something that's really important. The next thing that Cody's going to do, you good? All right. Games athlete, right? I don't know. Cody's going to kick back up, and he's going to let his hamstrings and his glutes kind of sit on the wall a little bit. You get a lot of people in this position during the open because when they try to slide their feet up, they try to stay close to the wall, but they don't bridge their hips at the end. So Cody's going to bridge his hips now, squeeze his butt, tuck those heels. He is now taller. So when we finish and we get into these positions, we have to be there. So anytime we do handstand holds to try to improve our endurance, we have to think about these things. Get as close to the wall as you can. Really try to open up the shoulders and bridge your hips, okay? Never, ever, ever let yourself go there. Because you can go through a training session all year long, build up that stamina, but not that motor recruitment pathway, and then when the open comes up, you're going to move the way you always did, and even though you're repping them out, when we look at the top half, the bottom half isn't tall enough to get you into that position. And that's really frustrating. I know a lot of athletes that are really good at handstand push-ups, standard comes along, not so good anymore because they didn't move well during the off-season. So everybody's going to come over, and they're going to kick up as close to the wall as they can and bridge their hips, point their heels up. Go ahead. Squeeze your butt, squeeze your gut.
You see how long his hands are? Shite.
His hair? I know.
Then you can look at athlete.
Good. Keep going, guys. Go ahead and kick down. Next person, step right up. Do not look down at the ground. That's going to make your shoulder mobility a lot worse. Look out. Neutral neck always when we're upside down. This next one, we're going rapid fire on this, okay? So when Cody kicks up, the first thing that he's going to do is he's going to bring his head down and he's going to make sure that it's behind his hands. Our pressing power here is nowhere near as strong as it is here. Comes down. He skipped ahead a few steps. That's okay. You guys aren't going to do that. You're going to come down and you're going to put your head behind your hands. Make sure that you're stable. You feel comfortable in that position so that as we start to pick up the speed, you're still comfortable. Kick up, bring your head down, make sure they're behind your hands, and then kick right down. Come down for a sec. I want you to do two things. When you kick up, push your hips through before you come down. You had your butt up against the wall, and then load your head behind your hands. Your head was here. Yeah. So butt off first. There we go. Now load back. Kick yourself back. There we go. Good. So rather than sliding your hands, let's try to load closer to the wall a little bit more. So you're going to be up here, and your head, you have a direction that you can go. Your head's between your hands. Load back. Head goes this way. Head back towards the wall. There we go. You're going to have a lot better balance there. We're going to go crazy now. We're going to add 2 steps at once. Cody's going to kick up for us every time in that nice position. Cody's going to load his head first. He's going to put his butt on the wall. Then he is going to point his knees out. Okay? See the balance that he has in this position? If you don't have Cody's shoulder mobility, you need to go this way. We don't want you kicking up into a position where you're just going to fall off the wall. We don't want that, okay? We are still not doing a handstand push-up. This is about positioning, okay? This is about technique. We're going to go ahead and kick up. We're going to make sure we're in a good handstand. We're going to make sure we're in a good headstand, butt to the wall, knees out. If you struggle with knees out, the best trick that I know of is pointing the soles of your feet together. A lot of people will get in this position, try to push their knees out, and they can't because their feet are still facing forward. Face the soles of your feet together. It makes it a lot easier. We've got a couple of people that are struggling with that position of the knees out. Let's talk about why we would want to get in there. Cody, go ahead and get into your headstand for me. Do it right. Get those knees out, soles of the feet together. This position right here, Cody maintains a neutral spine. If he maintains a neutral spine and he kicks up, he's in a nice straight position. Cody comes down and brings his knees forward. His pelvis rotates under. As he kicks up, there's going to be some sort of correction. You're either correcting by kicking in the wrong direction. You're correcting by throwing your hips out off the wall. Call that the booty bump, where people essentially throw their butt off the wall to be able to go up. We don't want that. We are going to have to fight to maintain positioning every single time. We can make this easier, which makes other movements easier. We don't care in this sport about 1 rep, 2 reps, 3 reps, 4 reps, 5 reps. We care about maybe 60, 70, a lot of reps. So we're not talking about a single rep anymore. How do I get my first rep? We're talking about how do I go into an open workout and crush the handstand push-ups so that everything else is easy. It's all about that rep accumulation. A lot of times we think back to the beginning of CrossFit where we were just like, oh, I got a handstand push-up. That doesn't matter as much anymore when we're trying to make it to however far you want to go in the open, if you want to make it to regionals. If you want to go to the CrossFit Games, we have to think about efficiency in every single movement. So Cody's going to go ahead and kick up into a beautiful handstand, load, butt to the wall, knees out. Now we're going to watch his feet. This is the key right here once you have the positioning. Cody's feet need to stay together and kick straight up. The more he kicks out, the more force that we wanted to lift us is floating off to the side. And you don't get any points for going sideways in a handstand push-up. All of our force needs to go up. Does that make sense? We're going to go 1 rep. Good. Go ahead and kick down for a second. One thing to think about is you're loading really well, and then you're like, no, but I need that extra. You pull your knee down and then kick up. When you go here, you got to trust yourself. And if you have to kick harder, that's okay. But we load here, heel points down into here, kick straight up. If you have to kick harder, that's okay. But what I don't want is this. Nah, I need more. And then I pull my knees and go into that position because that's going to make you go out and around. And it doesn't matter if you have more force because you kicked it that way instead of that way. We want to go down, kick straight back up. Now, obviously, we talked about we care a lot about multiple reps. We're finally at that point. You will notice that Cody is not going to wait to load his feet. That's the really important part. If we're trying to cycle, and the more we're upside down, if there's anything else with shoulders in it, the more time we spend upside down, we don't want that. So Cody is going to start to load his feet as his butt hits the wall so he can go right back up. And that's where that cycle rate's going to be. And we don't have to go from one rep to 1,000,000, but we can start to say, okay, go a little bit faster, but it still has to be head, butt, feet, kick. Watch him. Starts to load. So, obviously, easy for Cody. One thing to keep in mind, one thing to work on, set your sights on, is Cody is really good at these because he has really good shoulder mobility, and that allowed him from a young age to be able to work through the positions that we want him to. If you build your capacity in the right way, it makes everything easier. And that's why it's hard to catch those people. So something to work on if you really struggle with this is shoulder mobility. Come down for a sec. Arnie? So the biggest thing that I see there is you drag your butt on the wall on the way down, and it's harder to get back into that position. You're controlling when you're doing that so that you give yourself balance. You don't want to kind of ride down the wall. Because as you start to increase the reps, you're riding down the wall even sort of as part of your lockout. And that's what we want to stay away from. So you come down like this, then it's butt to the wall. Head hits the wall, then your butt hits the wall. Do not let your butt drag on the way down. A headstand is not leaning against the wall. A headstand is the tripod position, nothing else. You can have your heels on the wall if you want.
Okay.
Head, then butt. Don't drag your butt on the wall on the way down.
It's hard. You're asking a lot of me, too.
Yeah. There we go. And that style is going to be more of the high cycle rate. So what you're doing right there is it's like head and butt kind of at the same time, and that's okay. You're staying off of the wall. The more you stay off the wall, the more you're going to stay away from throwing your hip this way and then kind of going out and around and up. Those look better.
Okay.
How do they feel?
Yeah, I can do it for a few reps, but it's like I get lazy and then just put to the wall. That's just the easy way to do it.
Yeah, but one of your strong suits is muscle endurance. That's one of the biggest things that you can do. That's one of the biggest things that like Sherb can do. And during the open, Sherb's 3s and 4s and 5s.
Yeah.
So maybe it's just about not biting off those bigger chunks. It's about staying within your rep scheme, staying efficient, so you're not upside down for as long, you're not waiting down at the bottom, you're getting those reps done, and eventually 3 becomes 4, 4 becomes 5, and you move on. Whereas if you always burn yourself out early in a workout, you're kind of done. We don't have those slow twitch fibers in our upper body like we do our lower body. A lot of times the lower body's a choice. Like, am I tired, am I not? Upper body's like, no, you're done. So, smaller chunks. How does everybody feel with that? Does that make sense? Really important, as you guys started to cycle, the knees went from here to here to here to here. And I'm telling you right now, if you focus on your feet instead of your knees, it just happens. If you point the bottom of your foot in, it gets really easy. If you stay out here, eventually you're either going to rotate your pelvis under or you're going to kick that way. Point your foot at your crotch. Bring your heel to your crotch, point this way. This right here opens me up to have the balance pull me off. If Cody's all of his center of mass is here, he's good. The more his knees come out, the more it's going to want to pull him off the wall. We don't want that. Everybody good? Nice job.